For over 200 episodes, Edgar Hansen was the face of grit on Deadliest Catch. He was the deck boss who could fix anything, the man who never flinched, and the Hansen brother who kept the Northwestern running when everyone else was falling apart. Then suddenly, he vanished. Fans noticed immediately and exploded with questions. Was it health issues? Family drama? Did something happen on the boat? The network stayed silent. The Hansen family said nothing. And for months, the mystery deepened. But the truth has finally come out, was darker than anyone imagined. Let's start with what actually happened. On September 30th, 2017, Edgar Hansen was at a private residence in Mount Lake Terrace, Washington. Edgar wasn't relaxing from a hard day's work. He wasn't planning for the next trip, and he certainly wasn't alone. His guest? A 16-year-old girl. The next details are disturbing. Edgar kissed her, touched her inappropriately, and did what he wanted to her for his own sexual gratification. The victim reported what happened to her therapist in October 2017, and by July 2018, Edgar stood in Snohomish County District Court. He didn't deny what happened, and he pleaded guilty to fourth-degree assault with sexual motivation. That's a misdemeanor charge, and he was able to get that because he took a plea deal. Edgar confessed he was getting treatment to prevent that kind of incident from reoccurring. Doesn't this mean that he had been doing it before, but just got caught? The plea deal kept him out of jail as he got a 364-day suspended sentence. That means as long as he stayed out of trouble, he wouldn't serve time. But the court hit him with $1,653 in fines and fees, ordered him to undergo a sexual deviancy evaluation and treatment, and also provide a DNA sample. All of this happened quietly behind the scenes. There was no press conference, no public statement from Discovery, but just a quiet disappearance from Edgar. If not for court documents that would eventually surface, explaining everything, no one would have known. Let's make things a bit clearer with a timeline of events. The assault happened in September 2017. Edgar pleaded guilty in July 2018. Season 14 of Deadliest Catch was filmed shortly after the incident and aired through summer 2018. By the time Season 15 premiered in April 2019, Edgar was completely gone from the show. Discovery never officially addressed his departure. They just edited him out of existence. But here's the big question. Would Edgar have left the show if this next part didn't happen? That July 2018 criminal trial wasn't Edgar's only legal problem. In November 2017, while the criminal case was still developing, another bombshell dropped. A woman identified in court documents as Ekstrom filed a civil lawsuit against Edgar. Her claim was horrifying. She alleged that Edgar had sexually abused her when she was a toddler, roughly 30 years earlier, during her parents' divorce. She was the daughter of a former crew member. Edgar denied everything. He called it an old-fashioned shakedown. He said it was blackmail. He even set up a website to document his side of the story and defend himself against what he claimed were false accusations designed to extort money from him. The civil case didn't proceed to trial. It stalled out in the legal system, awaiting appeal review as of 2018. But the timing couldn't have been worse. That same 2018, Edgar was already facing criminal charges for the 2017 assault when this lawsuit hit. Did Edgar actually assault a toddler? No one will ever really know. But Discovery knew that if word got out about those two cases, it would be a PR nightmare. So, Discovery did what networks do. They quietly cut ties. Here's what's wild. The network never made a formal announcement. There was no statement saying Edgar Hansen will no longer appear on Deadliest Catch. They just stopped featuring him. So, there you have it. The show didn't simply move on and shift focus to Sig Hansen's daughter Mandy, who began training to take over the family business. His role as deck boss and relief captain was filled by other crew members. The Northwestern kept fishing. The cameras kept rolling. They moved on because Edgar had become the greatest liability to employ. Edgar's last appearance was in the season 14 finale, Storm Surge. After that, it was like he never existed. Discovery scrubbed him from promotional materials. Now, you know what happened to Edgar Hansen. He committed a crime. He pleaded guilty. And the show that made him famous erased him. But the story doesn't end here. Somehow, things get even darker from here on. The Deadliest Catch is used to controversies, but not like this. Edgar Hansen wasn't the last Deadliest Catch cast member to be exposed for sexually assaulting a minor. He wasn't even the worst. In September 2022, news broke that Josh Harris, another fan favorite and the son of legendary Captain Phil Harris, had been fired from the show. The reason? Allegations from 1998 that resurfaced online and forced Discovery's hand. So, here is what happened. In July 1998, when Harris was 15 or 16 years old, he was accused of digitally, vaginally, and orally assaulting a 4-year-old girl. The victim was the daughter of a deckhand and neighbor. The assault was reported at the time. Police found semen and bloodstains at the scene. DNA evidence linked Harris to the crime. Due to delays in DNA processing, Harris wasn't formally arrested until 1999. He eventually pleaded to lesser charges, 4th-degree assault, and communicating with a minor for immoral purposes. He served 9 months. His sentence included 30 days of confinement for each charge, 24 months of supervision, 150 hours of community service, and a mandatory 24-month sex offender program. So let's do a quick recap here. Josh Harris assaulted a 4-year-old child. He was convicted, served time, and then, years later, he became a star on Deadliest Catch. His father Phil died in 2010, and Josh took over as captain of the Cornelia Marie. He appeared in over 200 episodes and starred in spin-offs like Deadliest Catch, Bloodline. For more than a decade, Discovery Channel showcased a man who had pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting a toddler. How did this happen? Did the network not know? Or did they know and decide it didn't matter? We don't have clear answers. But in 2022, a Reddit post brought Harris's criminal past back into the spotlight. The story went viral, public pressure mounted, and Discovery finally acted. In September 2022, a network spokesperson told Radar Online, quote, "We've been made aware of this issue. Josh will not appear in future episodes of this series." Harris was quietly removed from season 19. The Cornelia Marie, the boat his father made famous, also disappeared from the show. Captain Casey McManus, who had been co-captain alongside Josh, lost his job on television. The whole operation was shut down because Discovery didn't want to be associated with a convicted sex offender. But here's the thing. It took decades for this to catch up with Josh Harris. And it only happened because fans dug up court records and made noise online. Discovery didn't proactively investigate their cast members. They reacted when it became a PR problem. And it wasn't just Edgar and Josh. Captain Sig Hansen, Edgar's older brother and the face of Deadliest Catch since day one, has his own legal troubles too. In May 2017, Sig celebrated Norway's Constitution Day in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood with his family. They called an Uber to get home to Shoreline. During the ride, the trip was cancelled through the app, meaning the driver wouldn't get paid if he continued. When the driver stopped and asked them to request another ride, Sig and his son-in-law, Clark Peterson, lost it. According to Seattle police reports, Sig and Peterson spat on the driver's head and the back of his seat. Sig kicked the side of the car, causing about $1,500 in damage. When officers arrived at Sig's home later, he was obviously intoxicated and initially resisted arrest. Sig pleaded guilty in May 2018 to misdemeanor assault. He got 40 hours of community service, was ordered to pay restitution and court costs, and was put on a year of probation with mandatory alcohol treatment. He also settled a civil lawsuit with the Uber driver Wahid Lawal for an undisclosed sum. Did this hurt Sig's career? Not really. He remained the star of Deadliest Catch. The network didn't fire him. He kept captaining the Northwestern. He continued appearing in every season. The difference between Sig and Edgar? Sig didn't assault a child. His crime, while serious, didn't cross the same line. And the network made a calculated decision to keep him on the show. So let's be honest about what this reveals. Deadliest Catch has had multiple cast members involved in assault cases. Edgar Hansen, Josh Harris, Sig Hansen, and those are just the ones we know about. The show has been running for over 20 years, filming men who work in one of the most dangerous and high-stress jobs on the planet. And when legal issues surface, the network's response has been inconsistent at best. Edgar got quietly erased. Josh got fired years after the fact. Sig got a slap on the wrist and kept his job. Is the pattern that Discovery responds to public pressure, not moral principle? But before all of these dark legal problems, Edgar Hansen was just a kid from Seattle who grew up on fishing boats. He was born on January 14th, 1971, to Norwegian immigrants. His father, Sverre Hansen, migrated from Norway in the 1940s and started working the Bering Sea. By 1977, Sverre had saved enough money to buy the Northwestern, a 125-foot crabber that would become the most famous fishing vessel in reality TV history. Edgar was the youngest of 3 sons. His oldest brother Sig, born in 1966, was the natural leader. Disciplined, intense, and built to be a captain. Middle brother Norman became the Northwestern's engineer, the guy who kept the engines running in sub-zero storms. And then there was Edgar, the wild card and the kid brother who ended up throwing everything he worked hard for away. But were the signs of the darkness in him always there? By all accounts, Edgar was carefree and undependable in his youth. Sig has said in interviews that Edgar partied too hard, didn't take things seriously, and had to be shaped by the sea. The Hansen family didn't prioritize formal education. Edgar dropped out of junior high to fish. That wasn't unusual for their world. You learned by doing. You worked the deck. You proved yourself, or you washed out. Edgar joined the Northwestern as a deckhand and cook around age 18, roughly 1989. Early on, he took a lot of hazing. He had to prove he wasn't just the captain's little brother. But Edgar was a quick learner. He mastered crab pots. He learned engine repairs. He worked his way up to chief engineer and eventually relief skipper, the guy who took over when Sig needed rest. For nearly 3 decades before Deadliest Catch even existed, Edgar was grinding away on the Bering Sea in long seasons and brutal conditions. This was the kind of work that breaks most people, but Edgar more than thrived. He was born for this. He developed a dry wit, a no-nonsense work ethic, and a reputation for reliability. If something broke on the Northwestern, Edgar fixed it. If SIG needed backup, Edgar stepped in. When Deadliest Catch premiered in 2005, Edgar became an unexpected star. He wasn't flashy like some of the other captains. He didn't create drama. But viewers loved him because he felt real. The sarcastic comments, the calm under pressure, the way he could stack crab pots in a storm without breaking a sweat. Edgar represented the blue-collar backbone of the show. As the show continued to air, he became a fan favorite. People respected his skill. They related to his grounded personality, and when he dealt with serious health issues, a degenerative spine disease that caused chronic pain, fans admired how he pushed through it. Edgar never complained. He just kept working. That was the Edgar Hansen people knew. A third-generation fisherman, a skilled deck boss, a guy who embodied the show's core appeal, ordinary men doing extraordinary, dangerous work. And then it all fell apart. So where is Edgar Hansen in 2025? The short answer is he's lying low, very low. Edgar lives in Mount Lake Terrace, Washington, the same Seattle suburb where the 2017 assault took place. He has no active social media presence, no Instagram, no Twitter, no public-facing Facebook page. After his guilty plea in 2018, Edgar essentially vanished from public life. But here's the interesting part. He may still be working on the Northwestern. Over the past few years, eagle-eyed fans on Reddit have claimed they've spotted Edgar in background shots during Deadliest Catch episodes. Not featured, not speaking, just there, working the deck. In some scenes, viewers say he's been deliberately blurred out or edited around. In others, you can hear his name being called Edgar, a quick shot of his hands working a line, and then the camera cuts away. It looks like he was fired by Discovery, but not from the boat. He is still very much involved in the family business, but for Discovery, Edgar is as good as dead. He had become like a nuclear bomb that could nuke the entire channel if they worked with him. Discovery just wants nothing to do with him. In 2024, Edgar's niece, Mandy Hansen, posted a video to her Instagram showing a fishing season kickoff tradition where crew members bite the head off a fish. Edgar was clearly visible in that video, participating in the ritual. So he is still involved with the Northwestern during crab seasons. This makes sense when you think about it. Discovery controls who appears on their show. They don't control who SIG Hansen hires to work on his boat. Edgar is family. He's been working on the Northwestern for over 30 years. His expertise is valuable, and from a practical standpoint, SIG probably isn't going to cut his brother off completely, especially when Edgar can still do the job. But Edgar will never be on TV again. That part of his life is over. As for his personal life, Edgar is married to Louise Hansen. They've been together since around 2009, after a long courtship. They have 3 children, Stephanie, Logan, and Eric. By all accounts, Edgar has tried to focus on treatment and staying out of the spotlight. He completed the court-ordered deviancy evaluation and treatment. He paid his fines, and he has been complying with the terms of his plea deal. There haven't been any new legal issues since 2018, not even additional allegations. Edgar has kept his head down and appears to be trying to move forward quietly. But his legacy is permanently stained. When people talk about Edgar Hansen now, they don't talk about his 3 decades of experience on the Bering Sea. They don't talk about the storms he survived or the crab pots he stacked. They talk about the 16-year-old girl he assaulted, the guilty plea, and how he was erased from Deadliest Catch. And that's probably how it should be. Edgar Hansen made choices that hurt someone. He admitted it in court. He faced consequences. But do you think those consequences are relatively light? He didn't get jail time, but a suspended sentence, with fines and a treatment. What about the teenager he robbed of her innocence? Did she get the justice she deserved? Edgar lost his TV career, but he didn't lose his freedom. He can still work, can still see his family, and can still go out on the Northwestern during crab season, as long as the cameras aren't pointed at him. The victim, on the other hand, has to live with what happened for the rest of her life, and for Discovery, it is business as usual. They've gotten rid of the guy that was too toxic to keep around. But here's what bothersome about all of this. Edgar's exit was handled so quietly that most viewers never knew the real reason. For years, fans wondered where he went. They speculated about health problems or family drama. The truth didn't come out in any official way. It came out through court documents and Reddit threads. Discovery never addressed it directly. They just moved on. And that's the pattern we've seen with Josh Harris too. Discovery doesn't get ahead of these issues. They don't vet their cast members. They react when the public finds out, when it becomes a scandal, when keeping someone on the show becomes more trouble than it's worth. As we have said before, the network isn't interested in moral leadership. They're interested in ratings and damage control. That's the business of reality TV, and maybe we shouldn't be surprised. These aren't actors auditioning for roles. They're real people, flaws and all. The show films them in extreme conditions, under enormous stress, and sometimes the cameras catch more than heroic moments stacking crab pots in a storm. Sometimes they catch the aftermath of very human failures. Edgar Hansen is one of those failures. He had a legacy worth celebrating. 3 generations of fishing, decades of skill and dedication, a blue-collar work ethic that resonated with millions of viewers. And he threw it away with a crime that hurt someone who couldn't defend herself. Now, he's just a name that fans search online, wondering where he went. Edgar is still out there, somewhere in the background, doing the work he's always done and still being important to his family. But the cameras aren't watching anymore, and that's probably for the best. The sea doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about your guilt or your apologies. It just demands that you show up and do the work, and Edgar is doing just that. That's the real story of Edgar Hansen. Not a mystery, not a tragedy, just consequences. But here's a question that has been popping in some minds lately. Can Edgar